If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law. I'm Keith Casebolt, and the reason I got all that right, they have a cue card right here that says, "You're Keith, and that's Simply the Law."
Remember his name, huh?
That's a joke. That's an inside joke. My friend Gary C. Johnson, Gary just said they're going to have to remind you the name of the show and your name and everything. Hello, friend.
That's not true. He remembered, I think. How you folks doing? Isn't it wonderful to be alive? I hope that this quarantine and staying at home hasn't caused any fights. I hear that the divorce lawyers are having a heyday, but I don't know if that's true or not. Think about it. Listen to me, my friends. This thing's going to be over in a short period of time, not very long, a year or so.
Just hold on.
And we'll be able to get on with our lives, and it'll be back to normal. You can go hide out, go to your pouting place without. It's okay, I guess is what I'm saying. Life is wonderful. And we now know what I've been preaching all these years is an absolute fact. Everybody is equal. Because this virus doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're rich and famous or dirt poor. It's going to grab you. So see, it's an equal opportunity virus. Think about that. And he just goes to show we're all the same. The problem is wouldn't it be nice if you could be better than somebody? I'm just kidding. No, we're not. Each and every one of you, as I've said so many times, is unique. One of a kind. Never be another one like you ever in eternity. Now, I want you to sit there and imagine eternity, and guess what? You can't. Our brains are not wired such that we can imagine anything that's infinite. Try it. Guarantee you cannot imagine infinity. You can't put your brain around it. Because we accustom our brain to a beginning and an end. Beginning and an end. There has to be a beginning and there has to be an end, right? So try imagining. But think about it. Even though you can't imagine it, in that infinity, there will never be another anything like you. Now, if you're not important, or don't believe you're important, you're crazy. You got a problem. Because you're really important. And the reason you're really important is you were born and you were chose to be given a gift of life, and you're here. And if any of you are squabbling and fighting and pouting around, shame on you. Shame on you.
You know, I thought of something this week. You've always told us don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now I know why. We didn't have anything to be critical of or to complain of. Now that we've had all this shutdown, I've heard people say time and time again, if things just get better, I'll never criticize again. I'll never complain again. If we can just get over this, you'll never hear a negative word out of my mouth.
Think back to our forefathers when they came into this nation, this country. The struggles they had, they didn't have anything. Nothing. They survived. And they built this country so that we could enjoy it. So a shutdown is a minor inconvenience to us. But yet we say, oh, no, I don't get to go shopping. I don't get to go do this. No, we still got it made. It's a wonderful life. Appreciate all the good things you've still got. The fact you've still got some air conditioning. fact you can flip a switch and have electricity. The fact you can go in and have running water. All of those things we just take for granted. I didn't have the running water when I was growing up. Bet you a bunch of you didn't either.
In fact,
Got electricity when I was about 12 years old, but
you and I were talking, had this happened 50 years ago, you and I wouldn't have known that it happened.
that's right.
Because we didn't get off the holler anyway.
So life is good, folks. And if any of you are squabbling and pouting and worried about imagined slights and are getting stir crazy in the house and start taking it out on each other, quit doing it. It serves no purpose other than to make you miserable. And remember, the purpose of this show is for us to be happy. Happy, not sad. We always look for the bright side, the good things, right? Cup is definitely still half full, not half empty. It's half full, right? Okay, let's go to the computer for just 1 second. I want to give you the numbers. There's our number if any of you need to reach us. Our Lexington office number, we're out on Executive Drive off of Winchester Road. GaryCJohnson.com if you need to reach us. And remember, make sure you have underinsurance that protects you and your family. I wanted to get through that before I got started. Underinsurance, make sure you have it. Tonight, we're going to, and this morning, believe it or not, since it's going to be playing in Lexington in the morning, I'm going to introduce you to a couple of our attorneys. The first one is going to be Angie Pergram Owens, and we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Keith is going to talk and discuss a little bit with Angie. So let's take our break.
Stay with us. There's more of Simply the Law when we return right after you see this. Who really knows which lawyer you should choose? Other lawyers know. They've invited Gary C. Johnson to teach his method of judo law in Denver, Atlanta, New Orleans, and across the nation. Gary used judo law to set the record for the largest personal injury verdict in the history of Kentucky. Now, which lawyer should you choose? The choice is clear. Gary C. Johnson. Dial #HURT. This is an advertisement. Welcome back into Simply the Law. I have a guest who I'm so pleased to talk to because several years ago, a long time ago, when I was the worst DJ on radio at a little station in Elkhorn City, I met Angie Pergram, who is now Angie Pergram Owens.
Yes.
So good to see you.
So good to be here, Keith.
Now, you've been in the Lexington office for quite some time with Gary, but now, for that past year, you've moved back to Eastern Kentucky. So give us a little update with what's going on.
Well, you know, I am so thankful and happy to be back in the mountains. My life has just opened up, and I've done so many wonderful things. And you know, Gary Johnson talks to us all the time, and as you all well know, about the 4 agreements. And one of the 4 agreements I'm having a great opportunity to work on, which is always do your best. So I got up and I decided, I'm back home, I got a yard, I've got a tiller that I can borrow, so I decided I was going to grow me a garden. Now what do? You live by the agreement. You get up and do the best you can. So I did. I went and bought these little seedlings. I put them in this soil. I coddled them. I watered them. I went and talked to them. Finally, it came time to plant. Well, I forgot to tell you that I have a friend named Dwayne. He is the sweetest, most beautiful, fat groundhog you have ever seen. And I love him. And I even talked to Gary Johnson about it, and I said, you know, I don't think Dwayne, my groundhog, will really bother my garden because I'm too good to him. I try to talk to him too, you know. So I planted my garden, I watched it grow. It's almost about to wash off with all the rain. So I got up the other morning, I was getting ready to come to work, and this is the agreement that I'm having a real hard time dealing with right now. Never take anything personal. Dwayne was sitting in the middle of my lovely garden, just having the best breakfast on the planet. I have a hard time not taking that personal. But I'm working on it, Keith. I'm working on it. So he's cute, he's fuzzy, I'll keep him around. And, you know, Gary Johnson just said in the last segment, you got to keep the glass half full. So if my hard work, dedication will feed Dwayne this summer, then it's all been worth it, Keith.
You know, Angie, Gary tells me every day, you never know what you're going to encounter. And he always tells our friends, whenever we do this show, that we never have a game plan. Out of all the things I thought you was going to talk about, I'd never dreamed it was going to be Dwayne the Groundhog. But I loved it, and let me tell you why. In all of my conversations with you, you and I like to talk about Eastern Kentucky and how to grow it and tourism and the beautiful mountains. But when I hear you talk about this region or about the job you do at Gary's office, passion is the one word that I get from you. And even when I was listening to your story, I could feel the passion about this garden and Dwayne, who's probably going to be the fattest groundhog in all of Eastern Kentucky.
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
So now that was the 2 of the 4 that you were doing, not taking it personal and doing your best. So have you been impeccable with the word when you have spoken to Dwayne about eating your garden?
That, I don't think that's for this show, Keith. I really don't think that's for this show, especially when it first happened. So I had a really hard time dealing with that. But what I have come to the conclusion, try your best at every single thing you do. Everything you do.
Yeah.
It made me feel good. I was so proud. I was watching something grow from the earth. The moral of the story, though, is I'm glad Gary Johnson likes me and keeps me around because I can't afford to quit my day job to go gardening.
I think our friend Gary Johnson has a little bit of that Tom Sawyer in him because he was on the radio going, this is going to be a perfect chance to grow a garden and get some vegetables. I now see he has passed that on to you and that you're growing the garden and you're the one that's going to come up with the vegetables.
Well, maybe Dwayne.
Yeah.
I'm afraid Dwayne will end up with the vegetables. But you know what? I've done my very best every morning planting that garden.
Yeah. I know that. And I know you're happy to be back in Eastern Kentucky.
I am so happy to be back in Eastern Kentucky and to do the very best you can every day from when I get up and go to work every day. I do my very best for our clients every day. I obviously didn't do my very best work on the garden, but I will continue to work hard.
And let's give it a little plug to your hometown of Elkhorn City. Things are starting to open up a little bit. If you get the chance to go to the Break Center State Park, if you will just go to one of the overlooks and step out there and look at the miracle that is the Breaks, you don't need to travel across the country. It's right here. It's incredible.
It's in our own backyard. And if you look at the river and you look at the mountains, there's no more beautiful jewel on the planet Earth.
There is. Hey. Angie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Keith. I've enjoyed it.
I'm telling you, she's one of my favorite people. Stay with us. Coming up, we're going to talk to Dustin Williams, who's going to be on the set with us. Simply the Law. Gary C. Johnson's program continues after this. Eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, and southwest Virginia. It can be a tough territory to reach when it comes to marketing. We can help. We can also help you find your identification. And we have plenty of services to do it and a lot of experience behind us, over 37 years. In fact, we've either booked or sold nearly $70 million in advertising in this region. You need a new voice, a new idea, a new concept? Casebold Marketing. We're ready to go to work for you today. Our motto is nothing happens until you make it happen. So let's get started today. Welcome back in to Simply the Law. It is my pleasure to say hello to Dustin Williams, a Harlan County guy.
Yes, born and raised.
Dustin and I actually have children the same age. The only problem is when people see me, they think it's my grandchild. So he and I were just talking about our kids. Dustin, obviously the world changed in the middle of March.
That's true.
The problem is services have to go on, especially services that are needed like the legal services. So what kind of challenge has it been, and what have you been doing in the office in order to take care of clients and help these people during an unprecedented time that we're going through?
Well, believe it or not, we have stepped up. We've rolled out a lot of technology, Keith. The way we've been doing it, believe it or not, is we've sent all the staff home and the lawyers are at the office. So a little mix up as to, you never know how much you truly appreciate the people you work with till you have to do all their jobs. And even though they're working from home, somebody's still got to make phone calls. Somebody's still got to fax stuff. Somebody's still got to open and look at the mail. I will tell you, I never again will ever take for granted how much our staff does. Even though they're working from home, Gary went to the expense of setting everybody up remotely. That means they've got computers that let them look just like they're looking at their screens at the office. So they can send emails, they can do their case management stuff, they can see the scan stuff that comes in. The only problem is they create a lot of work. Well, somebody's got to put that work out. Well, unfortunately, without them being there, the lawyers are doing. So like I said, I'll never take for granted how much I appreciate all the people we work with.
Let me ask you too, because Gary and I talk all the time about the stress that it causes to a client to be in a lawsuit. I mean, they don't want to be in it. It's stressful enough. And as the lawsuit, the time that it takes to do one is painful to the client, but all of a sudden, everything's been shut down. The courthouses have been shut down. What kind of stress has this put on the client, and what have you been doing to reassure them that, the courthouses are going to be open, we're going to be able to get through this together? I'm sure there's been a lot of anxious calls made to your office.
Exactly, Keith, because basically the courts are shut down till June 1. But I will tell you, a lot of our judges have stepped up and started doing things by phone or by Zoom. Believe it or not, we've become experts on using Zoom to do both hearings and depositions, as well as conference calls with other counsel. So I will tell you that is the big thing is we've brought somebody in who set all the attorneys' offices up with a Zoom camera, Zoom speaker, Zoom microphone, so that you can appear just like normal. A lot of the judges now starting June will be doing Zoom hearings. We're going to push to get everything moving again. We're still scheduling stuff that did get canceled in March. I've already got reset for June. We're trying to do everything we can to keep everything moving. Now, it may take a little bit till we get back to jury trials, but everything will be ready to go once that's done. Gary's made sure we had the technology to keep all that moving.
That was going to be my next question. I mean, Gary always talks about when you enter into a law firm, look around, look at the law firm. Do they have the funds to have the technology to put on your case? Obviously, without today's technology, this would have been a real challenge.
Exactly. So many people would still waiting to see what happens. We have embraced it all, started stepping into it, and getting ready to start raring to go June 1.
So basically the work has kept going.
Right.
My friend, good to have you here.
Thank you, Keith.
And a shout out to Harlan on behalf of Dustin. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Gary C. Johnson to close out the program.
People are asking, what is judo law? Judo is a martial art that uses the opponent's strength to defeat them by not opposing it directly. Gary C. Johnson created a method of practicing law based on that principle. It worked so well he named it judo law. To see the results, go to GaryCJohnson.com. To have Gary and his team of judo lawyers go to work for you, dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. Gary Johnson back with us, the host. My friend, I hear you time and time again on the radio show, the television show, and you talk about your support group, your people. Just listening to Dustin say, oh my goodness, I'll never take anybody in that office for granted again, how important the people were to him. And then I realized how important these two people, Angie and Dustin, are to you and what you're doing for the people of this region.
I really want to say, if any of my folks are watching this, how thankful I am that you are in my life, because I could not represent the clients that come to our office in the way that I would want to without you. Not only that, because of what my attorneys have built relationships over the years with defense attorneys that are really good relationships. They've built excellent relationships with insurance adjusters, And believe it or not, we literally have not missed a beat during this. There's not a day goes by that at least one of the attorneys in my office doesn't settle a case with an adjuster, even under these circumstances. And it's not just the settling of the cases are going to be ready for trial. As soon as they say the juries can go, and guess what? Those cases that are going to be ready for trial, they'll settle.
Gary,
That's just the way it is.
I can tell our friends this story. I was at the Yum Center Arena in Louisville to see a concert, sitting beside of a gentleman who introduced himself. And I said, well, I'm from Pikeville, Kentucky. He said, well, I'm an attorney, a defense attorney. I come to Pikeville. He said, but I only go there to settle with this guy, Gary Johnson, because we don't want to go to trial with him because it costs too much. He said, every time this guy, when we get a call, we say, oh, if it's Gary, let's go ahead and settle with him. He said, do you know him? And I said, I've heard of this guy. I've heard of this guy. I didn't tell him who I was, but he told me the story.
Well, I want to go to the computer. I got a couple of quotes I want to share with you. You know, we always use quotes, right, guys? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer. How many times have I told you, my friends, about attitude and how you choose to look? The things you look at change if you change the way you look at them. I think that's a brilliant quote. Wayne Dyer.
Take that quote and expand upon it. You said that going into this virus, when everything happened, you said, Keith, horrible things are happening, but I'll bet you good things will come out of this.
Depending upon the attitude and the way my friends choose to look at it. Now, those of you, again, I'm going back to it because it popped into my mind, and when it pops into my mind, it's a big deal. Some of you folks are sort of fighting. Don't do it. You're wasting the dash. Be grateful and look around and be thankful that you've got someone in your life, because there's a whole lot of people that don't. Okay? Now, let's go back to the computer again. What did Mark Twain have to say? Fear, anxiety, and worry are interest you pay on a debt you may never owe. Mark Twain.
Boy, that's good.
Now, isn't that profound?
Yeah. You know, that goes along with one of the 4 agreements, assuming. So when you assume there's a problem, or you assume there's a slight, or you start worrying over things, it may not even be realistic.
I know, and the reason I wanted to use that quote to my friends is I know many of you are anxious and are worried about this virus. It's a fact of life. What's going to be will be. And you're worrying about it and being anxious about it and having fear and those emotions will really take a toll on your heart. It's amazing how bad you can hurt yourself with fear, anxiety, and worry. Please try to not do it. Please, for your sake and for your family's sake. I had a program I was going to do on the heart because it was in this book, a wonderful article, my men's health book, which Anita swears I won't let her read, but it's not true. But it's got a beautiful section. Let's see how many minutes we got. We got about 4 minutes. I may read you one of the things on the heart. What do you think? Got the glasses on, ready? Because it's some really neat stuff on the heart. Did you know that the heart will pump until you die? And it can do it sometimes up to 100 years, I'm sorry. And it starts when you're 21 days old. No other machine could ever do that. Think about it, right? Every day your heart pumps around 2,000 gallons of blood throughout your body. 2,000 gallons. So that the oxygen can get to your body so you can live. It beats an average of 70 beats per minute, 100,000 beats per day. Its beat changes when you need more oxygen. It adjusts itself. Or if it thinks you are in danger, it starts going so you'll have the energy. It has its own electrical system. And believe it or not, your heart has a brain.
Really?
Yep. It has a nerve structures called ganglia that are literally a rudimentary brain that regulates everything independent of your other brain. Totally independent of it. It ensures your heart's electrical and mechanical functions work, the heart's brain does. It listens. And what do I mean by that? Blood pressure, heart rate rise and fall to match the volume and pace of music. And it generally responds best to a 10-second rhythm. Think about that. It connects. Your heart flutters when you see your beloved. Your heart syncs with your mate and beats the same exact times per minute. Think about that. Now,
I think the whole point of that is to tell us that is a true miracle, isn't it?
well, and you can break your heart, believe it or not, with stress.
And worry.
I'm going to read you what it says about it breaks. The broken heart may actually be a thing, research suggests. Scientists have long observed that people who suffer sudden severe trauma sometimes exhibit physical wounds on their pericardium, the outer layer of the heart muscle, caused by extreme level of stress. Neurotransmitters called, but there's also something called cardiomyopathy, where the left ventricle becomes temporarily deformed and weakened because of emotional distress. And that's what I was talking to you about a while ago, about this worry, anxiety, and fear. It can actually impact your heart. My friends, I think...
So the old saying, he died of a broken heart, is actually true. You could actually do that.
He stopped loving her today.
Oh, no. If we get on to George Jones, we could be here a little while this evening. What a great program. Good to have Angie Owens back in Eastern Kentucky, Dustin Williams from Harlan, and a complete shout out to everybody at your office, because during all of this, you guys didn't skip a beat.
That's right.
And we tie that in with the heart. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casewell. Thank you so much for tuning in to Simply the Law. Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy. People are asking, what is judo law? Judo is a martial art that uses the opponent's strength to defeat them by not opposing it directly. Gary C. Johnson created a method of practicing law based upon that principle. It worked so well, he named it judo law. To see the results, go to GaryCJohnson.com. To have Gary and his team of judo lawyers go to work for you, dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.